And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel. Today we're taking a look at a game called Keyper. Now this is in the Key series, which is a series of games from Richard Breese from R&D Games, and basically, I'm not sure why they all take place in the same area. They're all the medieval theme to them. There's been Cathedral and Keydom, and Keyflower is probably the most famous of the bunch, and he makes one every so few years, and so this year he's made one called Keyper. Now in Keyper, the theming of it is there's fairs coming on, so you are building up your part of the town, building up your area to make it look cool, to get the most victory points. Who cares? Theme doesn't really matter. But does this game have some things that other games don't? Well, it has something I've never seen in any game before. Let me show you. Now, there's a lot going on in this game, and I'm not going to explain every detail to you, but I want to kind of give you an indication of how the game works. There are 4 seasons of the game, and in each season, players are going to be playing with this board. Now, this board here is going to be set up in different ways. You can see that the board folds. You just keep folding it forever and ever, and so boards can be folded in different ways to come up with different things. And so at the beginning of the game, all the boards are going to be folded for spring and placed there. And players are going to take turns placing workers. Now at the beginning of the game, each player has their own player board here, and they also have their own workers. They have workers of different colors. The white ones are kind of wild. And then they have this Keyper here. Now, on your turn, you're going to place a worker out, and workers are going to give different resources depending on where they go. So if I put this worker here, for example, I'm going to get a brown cube, wood, that's unprocessed wood, or what have you. If I put my brown meeple there, he matches the color, so I would get 2. So the benefit of having guys match the colors, you'll get more. Now, whenever you put someone on the board, other players are also able to join you if you want to. You go around a table each time you put out a worker. If they join you and they have to put out the same color that you put out, you will get 1 more. So here we would each get 3. So there's some benefits to cooperation. Now also, you can place your Keyper out on the board. When you place your Keyper, you're going to place him in one of the 4 board sections. That's going to do 2 things. At the end of the round, all the workers in that section are going to come back to you. So if there's a lot more workers in one section, you will have more power the next time to put out workers. And the next turn, when it's time to go to the next season, you get to pick how the board is. There's not too many different options, but I might pick this as my board, or you have to have all 4 sides to a board. So for the summer, and the summer shows this one here, I can look like this. This can also be summer, and I think there's another way. I think these are 2 more ways for summer to be. And so you get to pick which of these different areas are out here. Some areas give you resources, some will change your resource in others, some will change your resource into upgraded resources, some will give you wheat, some will give you different types of animals that are out there, and some will give you gems. There's actually quite a few resources in the game. There's 3 basic resources, many of them used for building, and then an upgraded resource, that's the octagonal shape of each type. There are gems. I got a whole bag of gems here that will be used to get points at the end of the game. And then I believe there are many, I think 8 different types of animals that players will be getting, and there's also wheat. So there's a lot of pieces and a lot of things in this game. Players also have their own personal board. This is used for several reasons. You have your own buildings that you'll be able to build as the game goes by, but the game comes with many other buildings that players will be having a chance to buy and build on their board. And when you build a building on your own board, you'll have a chance. Sometimes this one here, for example, just gives a point for each building that's diagonally, but others will have you can put your worker there and use them yourself. Like this one here, for example, the carpenter allows you to change a brown resource to an upgraded resource. You can also upgrade this building and later on change a brown wood resource into 2 of the other resources. Some of the buildings in the farm area allow you to store animals, like 4 animals of each kind. So for example, a cow shed here can have 4 cows in, and at the end of the game is going to be worth a point for every cow you have in that cow shed. Or you even have the ability to upgrade it and have them be worth 2 points at the end of the game. Players also have fairs that they will have in their area. And when a fair occurs at the end of each season, you have a chance. If you have, for example, this brown cow and this orange resource, I'll get 2 points at the end of the game. And so there are different ways to get points, but it's essentially you are going to be sending workers out here to these boards to get resources and get points, and then building more buildings down here. There's also going to be boats. See, once these boards are made out here, so let's build this board here. There's also going to be a ship randomly placed. There's 6 different ships, but there's also a ship, and a ship is a place where you can go and get resources or sell resources for money and animals. Then those are going to change from round to round, and the blue meeple is the one who gets you the extra benefit there. That's kind of a quick overview of the game. At the end of the game, you're going to get points, and a lot of points are mostly going to come from the buildings that are on your own board, like this building here, which might give me a point for every a horse that I have. There are ways to change things into points. There's a lot of different buildings that will give you points for these gems at the end of the game, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Now, obviously, this whole folding the board over and over again, it's more of a gimmick than anything else, but it is a lot of fun, and it's a neat thing, and it works really well. It's also very good quality. The boards really don't have any chance of falling apart, so that's neat. Now, I don't know how well the different colors are. If you have bad lighting, you might have a difficulty saying, okay, this is where the gray meeple goes, this is where the brown meeple goes. But you also have these meeples, and then there's these, they're actually called keeples, but I refuse to use that term again. So this is a meeple, and this is one of your this is the Keyper that you have, and you'll notice there's 2 different versions of green, which I thought was a little annoying. This one has his arm going up, so it's slightly different. Other than that, the components are fine. Just realize there is a whole ton of them, all different animals and different resources. You know, here's a goat, and here's a rooster, and here's a pig. There's just all kinds of different resources that you have, so you'll have to keep them separate. The tiles are fine too, but the players all have their own starting tiles, so you'll have to find a good way to separate everything at the beginning of the game. Like this tile here is a blue tile. There's just a lot of things. Setup in this game took a little bit longer. There's also a lot of rules in the game for when you have, you know, each of these special buildings that the different buildings are going to show up in different seasons that players can build, and so each of them is going to have special rules for them. So there's a lot of rules for all these buildings that are in the game in the rule book, and there's also a lot of different things that show you all the different ways to get resources and such. There's a lot of information here and a lot of pieces, but it all easily fits into the box. Now, Keyper's kind of an interesting game. We'll start with the folding board, right? That's just neat. Now, it's a gimmick, and I know it's a gimmick, and everyone who plays it knows it's a gimmick, and people don't care. Even the most hard-hearted person sits there and goes, oh, this is fun to fold. And in reality, there's only like 3 or 4 ways to fold each season, so it's not like it's that fascinating or that difficult, but it's a cool, fun thing to do. Everything else is not so amazing when you first see it, because in reality, this game almost feels like Uwe Rosenberg designed part of it, because you're getting animals and storing those animals on your farm, and you're getting resources and trying to get points from those resources. And so I like this game, and I think this game's worth getting. I don't think it's necessarily the best in the series, because there's a few problems that the game has. The biggest problem I could see with this game is that if you get ahead, or actually, to clarify, if you get behind on a round, it's very difficult to catch up. Now, the way the game works is you have room for 7 or 8 workers, 9 in a 2-player game, but you have 8 workers. So if you put your Keyper in an area that manages to get more than 8 workers for whatever reason, then those extra workers are put into a tower piece, and they just get you extra resources. That's cool. The person who gets less than 8 workers, though, is going to really kind of struggle on the following turn. And it's very possible to really be punished so much that you cannot catch back up. And you say, well, you should never let yourself get a small area. But it's kind of a chicken game, right? You want to get the resources out there, and I've just seen it happen. And I think it's just something you need to be cognizant of and say, hey, it's very possible in this game that I am going to not get an area with a lot of workers in. So I got to be careful not to let that happen. And because of that whole sharing aspect, like if I go here, join me, we'll both get 3 resources. I'm like, I don't really need that kind of resource.
but it's still 3 resources. But wait, if I go there, that's in your area where you've already placed your keeper, and you're going to get an extra worker. No. And then suddenly you get workers of all different colors. At the beginning you have one of each color. And so I find the idea fascinating, but it feels like there's a bit of fragility to it because someone could really fall behind on that. Also, the game itself, there's a lot of cool things, but it is essentially, hey, get some resources, upgrade these resources for this. And you have to kind of go into it saying, all right, how do I get points? What scores me points? Getting the farm areas out and getting animals into them. That's definitely a way to score points. Everyone can do that. The other things are a bit more work as you get these resources that you need to build buildings and then use those buildings to build other buildings. And some of those buildings will give you points for gems. You also get points for putting the fairs on. And the rules are pretty hefty. It's not that complex of a game, but because there's so many rules for different buildings, this is easily, I think, the most complex game. There's some similarities to his last game, Cathedral, and again, like I said, I feel like there's a bit of Rosenberg in here too. And because of that, I think that keeps this game from getting to greatness. Because when you play, it's harder to have a clear goal of what you should do. It's more of a game where you're kind of playing along. At the beginning, you say, I think I'll go for animals. What's making me go for animals? I'm not really sure, but I think I'll start. And as the game goes by, pieces fall into place. Buildings will show up and you say, I will take that building and put it in my area and build that one later on. Or I'm going to decide to upgrade these. And you have a lot of choices, but the choices don't seem to diverge in very obvious paths for the player as they go through. I like the game. It's pretty, it's cool, there's a lot of cool pieces, and it's a good fitting one in the Key series. And that's one I think that people should try and check out. I'm not sure that it has the staying power that Cathedral, or my favorite of the series, Keyflower, or my favorite is Cathedral, or Keyflower does, but I think that it is a solid addition. There's a lot of things going on, and it has 2 things I haven't seen before, the folding boards, which was a gimmick, or the let's put a worker together and get more resources, which is kind of an intriguing thing, which could be good or bad. And then the claiming of an area and getting all the workers back, that's also interesting. So there's a lot of cool ideas in this game. And then you add to them a lot of things we've seen before, build buildings, use buildings, put out workers, get resources, use those workers' resources to get points, and have what I think there's 3 different color gems, and there's 6 different building resources, 9 and 8 animals, so 17 plus wheat, which can be used as a wild resource. So there's, I think, 18 different resources. That's a lot of different resources going on in this game. So there's a lot with some cool ideas. It makes a good, solid game that falls just shy of greatness, but I think a lot of people will like. That's Keyper.
Dice Tower judgment approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.